I'd like to call this regular city council meeting of July 13, 2015 to order. We would like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A roll call shows council present and as well as department heads. Approval of minutes for June 22nd.
Move the minutes.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, approval of bills. I want to revert back just for a moment to the minutes. The fact that it was a 3-hour and 45-minute meeting, nobody had any questions on it. Lisa, good job. Okay, now to the bills.
I just make a comment, just from reviewing the revenue and expenditure reports. It looks like, I understand that there's more, the books haven't been totally reconciled yet, but it looks like we may come out pretty good.
Better than
Than we'd
poorly.
imagined. Yeah.
Anything pop out, folks?
I had one question on
Go ahead.
page 2 of the check register, the $184,260 for Brico Excavating. Is that the last payment to them?
No, it is
Wait.
not. We are still working with HRC to find out why we're still getting bills from this, but they're still finalizing the DWRF loan and their payments. I have asked for a meeting with HRC, with Mike Darga and with Jesse and Jonathan Booth to find out why this is not closed out yet.
Well, where do we stand then?
There is still money in the fund.
The money that we've
We have not expended all of the money in the fund
So there's
yet.
still money in the...
There's still money in the fund, yes.
Okay, thank you, that's my question.
So are we able to dip into that for some of the corrections that we've had to make with our DPW?
Those are all under warranty, yes. So, yes.
Yeah, but our people were
They
fixing.
reimburse us for that.
Oh, that's what I was going to say, because we're using our people to fix them.
I'll move the bills.
Second.
Further discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask, is that the contingency money that's still in the fund?
We have not yet gone into the contingency money, but Mike does believe we will probably get into the contingency money.
Thanks.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the agenda, additions or deletions?
I would like to add, with the council's approval, one item. This was brought to us late Friday afternoon, and Tim and I have been working on it since then. We received a letter from the county dated July 8th and received it in Friday's mail. This would be to consider a resolution authorizing the purchase of tax foreclosed property at 390 South Lafayette Street. This property is in the downtown. The city has first right of refusal for this, and so I would like the city to consider this as a item on the agenda. That's all of the information that you have in front of you. As I said, it came very late on Friday. Tim and I have spent the weekend and all day today working on collecting the information. Dennis Smith is here to answer questions, and our city planner is at another meeting, but he is supposed to text me when he gets out of that meeting to let me know if he can make it to answer any questions that the council has as well.
And of course, we're under the gun because the county's given us till the 21st.
Yes, we have only until the 21st to make a
So
decision
basically a
in
week.
writing.
I move the agenda as
2A.
amended.
Which number are we putting it at?
We would put it as 8. That would hopefully give the planner time to get here.
Oh, okay. So you want to keep the building inspector here until the end of the meeting?
Yes, I'll be here.
Okay.
As long as you
Did anyone second your motion?
I'll second it. I'll second.
Okay, further discussion? We know what it's about then, right? Okay. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment. At this time, anybody wishes to speak on any item not listed on the agenda, you may do so. State your name and address.
Carl Richards, 390 Lennox. Greetings, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, first up, I'd like to thank the HVA and the South Lyon Fire Department for helping me out in a very desperate situation and got me to the hospital last week, where I spent 3 days. And that's it. They really came through, and it was wonderful. I never called an ambulance for myself before. Okay. Number two, I want to thank our DPW for the beautiful condition that McCaddy Park was and other places in town for the 4th of July weekend. When I went through there, man, I thought I was in Comerica Park, if you know what I mean. Because better than they do also. The grass, the way the grass was cut, even though I've never been in Comerica Park, I've seen the pictures, you know. Also, the wonderful, absolutely wonderful bench that they put up there, 2 of them, by Bob's Barber Shop in the little alley. Brand new, wonderful. Also, the new swing in the park for the handicapped. Okay, it gets use all the time. So it costs a little bit more than you'd imagine, but just the same, it's great to have one back there, and the kids are using it a lot. Okay. In closing, I'd just like to mention the tube mill got done with its shutdown, as you understand. They have an annual yearly shutdown, and today was supposed to be their first day back to work, and no production is going back to work, just maintenance staff. So it's day to day. I don't know what's going to happen right now. I'm sure they want to keep busy, but you ought to know that, okay? Simple as that. Okay, thank you very much.
Ryan Lair, 716 Grand Court. I wanted to give a special thanks to the South Lyon Police Department and the South Lyon Fire Department. In July 4th, in our subdivision, there was a house fire, and I happened to be outside at the time of the incident, and I saw the fire department go through, and I saw Officer Baker go through, so I went down to see what was going on, see if I could help Officer Baker, and he told me there was a fire at one of the residences. Apparently one of the grill was too close to the house or whatever, and through absolute diligence from the work from the South Lyon Department and the Police Department and the assistant, and I'd like to give a shout out for Lyon Township because they did assist. I couldn't be more proud of our police department and fire department. They really saved that house and that person and everybody. Not their food went up, but their house could have went up too. And I just think a round of applause should go to them because they saved a family tragedy on July 4th, and it could have been a lot worse. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? This is your time to speak, if you so desire. All righty, now we'll move on to old business, which we don't have any. So we'll move on to new business. And we have a couple different appointments to make, as well as resignations came in. And I'll let Lynn go ahead. You do yours on that one.
Yes, the Cultural Arts Commission, we had a resignation of Ann Levy on the commission, and Tammy, and I'm going to butcher her last name because I'm terrible with last names, Mpoligidi, was brought forth by the Cultural Arts Commission. She has a great resume of experience in the arts and in volunteerism. She's willing to work with the Cultural Arts Commission, and I think she would make a great addition to the commission. She does not live within the city, but the bylaws for the commission do not require that. So I would like to make this appointment if the council would so allow.
I'll support Ms. Impoliti.
I'll second.
Okay, and then, any further discussion on that one? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. On the Historical Commission, we had a resignation of Elizabeth Files. She, family commitments have just, she knows that she's missed too many meetings and so forth, and she just felt that, and plus her child is doing quite well in soccer and in different events, and so she wants to be available for her. And so she's asked verbally, she did say, I do want to resign effective immediately. And I was not happy to lose her, but happy to have a spot for this next person. Jim Race has been, he's a lifetime resident of South Lyon. And being that he's been here a while, he would be a great asset, I think, as far as historical knowledge and so forth. And plus, he has the desire, he wants to contribute. And and he is here. If you, I could ask him to come up and just, if you want, we can meet him. Come up to the microphone, Jim. You can state your name and address and.
Jim Race, I live at 996 Hearthside here in town. I have decided that when one gets to be my age, one becomes rather historical. And that being the case, I guess the logical place for me to do something would be with the Historical Commission. So I approached Ted about that, and he promised me that as soon as there was a space available, why, he would let me know. And he did, and I'm here, and I'm willing to contribute the best I can.
Okay, thank you.
Well, speaking of contribute, did you have anything to do with putting back together after the fire, the museum, Yankee Museum? I mean,
The Yankee
fundraising
Museum?
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. I was a department manager there, managed the membership department. We boosted membership to about 2,500 members nationwide. And that was primarily a revenue for the museum to not only move into temporary quarters, but to purchase a building and be where they're at now. And they've gone on and they have acquired a portion of the old World War II bomber plant there in Willow Run. And they're in the process of fundraising to rejuvenate and get that thing presentable as a museum and as an educational place. They're very heavily into youth education now, as well as preserving wartime aircraft.
I don't know if we're going to be quite so ambitious, but if you could employ any of those skills into our stuff, that'd be helpful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Point.
Any further discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Welcome.
Ron, you'll need to see Lisa probably during business hours, and she can do your swearing in. Official swear-in. Number 2, consider requesting the DDA board begin the process to identify specific project properties and undertake the process of preparing to apply for the 2016 Michigan Blight Elimination Program. How appropriate.
Met with the DDA board last Thursday, and we discussed this project and this grant program, and they are very interested in this, as there are some buildings in the downtown area, obviously, that could use some work. The blight elimination program not only allows for the elimination, but also the refurbishment and renovation of structures in the downtown area, which is why I think this is a great opportunity for a project for the DDA and myself to work on, as well as to go after grant funding for. It used to be a program that was part of the CDBG funding, which would have been something we would not have been eligible for, as we are an entitlement fund program city. And so we wouldn't, but it is now part of the state land bank, and we can go after up to $500,000 to renovate, remediate, refurbish, or condemn and eliminate structures in our community. And I think, as I said, this would be a good program for the DDA to work on. Grant applications are due June 1st every year, so this gives them a year to work on targeting a specific building, working with the property owner to see if they're willing to work with us. If they're not willing to work with the city, then coming to the city council and taking steps to take legal measures for the building, and then going after the grant funding that way.
Well, does that give, do they have tools for wresting a property away from a bad landlord?
Yes.
Okay, because that's always been our weak link, you know, we
Right,
don't have
and what
control
this,
over that.
what this program does is it helps put state resources behind us to do that, whereas it gives us some of the finances as well as some of the state's toolkit for eminent domain as well as legal resources for that.
Well, I think this sounds like it exactly tailored to what we're looking to do. So I'd make a motion, we approve this.
I'll second.
Further discussion?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think this is a very nice, I'm glad to see that this topic is finally being addressed. There's still a lot of work that we have to do to improve our downtown, and we should be taking a hard stance on blight, and I definitely think that we're heading in the right direction by tackling this. So thank you.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, consider ratification of the IUOE union contract for July 1st of this year till June 30th of 2018.
And I do apologize, I did not realize when Kristen sent the contract, or the packets out, she did not include the red line. I was in meetings all day on Thursday. Harvey has brought up a couple of questions as the new red line contract was not included. I provided Tim with the revised copy from the last meeting with the new contract language. You've also received the contract summary. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council has on the contract.
Are you comfortable with it, Tim?
Yeah, I just saw this tonight, but the union security provision in Article 3, and I know, I think you have is there a version of this in your packet? So this recognizes Public Act 349, which is the Right to Work Act, as applicable to municipal employers. If there is a change in the law so that the following is enforceable in whole or in part, but currently it is not, then the following provision shall govern the employees covered by this agreement to the full extent that is enforceable. And it continues language similar to the previous union security, which is the dues that would be paid. So in that context, I think the contract, and it's my understanding that Pat Azeltine from my office had participated in the negotiation of this particular language and has reviewed it. So it looks, it's my understanding, I talked to him at the last meeting, that this provision was acceptable to him. As I read it, it reflects the accurate, the Public Act 49 and the Right to Work Act, so I don't see an objection to this provision.
So this is the old contract? I'm sorry, Tim, I was reading that union security, under Article 3. Has that paragraph been modified at all, or is it the same exact?
Yeah, I just read it, so
I know,
it's-
so that's the modified one?
I didn't read
Okay.
it all, but that's the introductory statement, that
Okay.
this language does not apply, it's not,
Okay,
it is not currently enforceable under Michigan law, but if it becomes enforceable, these are the provisions that would apply to the union dues type concept, which is referred to as union security.
okay, all right.
Harvey?
And the union is ratified?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it absolutely against the law to give retroactive pay?
Yes.
To what? I'm sorry.
To give retroactive pay for 1 week?
Okay, I didn't hear you. Thank you.
Yes, retroactivity is now illegal.
Because we were concerned with that last time, they were gonna lose out, but I guess it was both sides that,
Well, they hadn't ratified yet.
yeah. So, okay, well, do we want to ratify?
Yeah, I move the contract.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? This ought to be easy. Consider authorizing request for reimbursement from Oakland County for the West Nile virus program. And Bob, I'll go ahead and let you just,
This is our 14th year that the city's participated in the Oakland County West Nile Virus Fund Program, okay? And there's 3 steps along the way in order to achieve the final payback. And the first one is attending seminars and applying for the application, which was done earlier this year. Number 2 was the purchase and distribution of mosquito repellent briquettes around the city on a continuous basis, which we do that 3-4 times a month, okay? And the third and final step is tonight passing a resolution supporting the West Nile Virus Fund Program. And in so supporting this and making this resolution, it will enable the city to receive a check back for what we purchased for $1,546.18 for the mosquitoes repellent that we use throughout the city. We pass out at City Hall, we have at the concerts in the park, things like that. We also have these that we have posted around the city in the library, City Hall and stuff like that, so. We're very active, it's a great program, and two of our guys have gone to the class every year for about 6 or 7 years in a row, 2 of them, so.
another thing we was talking about these, is it pellets or what is it? You drop into the storm sewers?
Correct.
Pardon?
Yes, that's exactly what they are.
Yeah, you'll see DPW guys kind of hanging around these storm sewers. You see them dropping something in there, and they're going after the mosquitoes. That's what that is. Okay. All right, somebody want to make a motion
Yeah,
here?
I'll move the resolution.
I'll support.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, moving right along to number 5, consider approving application for Whipple Street Block Party, but it's not an action item, so I don't know. It's on the agenda for what reason?
I submitted it to the city manager for an informational item only to be included in the packet.
Okay,
Whipple Street Block Party's a very long-standing block party. We haven't experienced problems with it at all, and we approved it on the basis of council giving me the authority to do that.
so, again, that was something we gave you the power to do, wasn't it? For
Yes,
block
that
parties
was
and so forth, so we wouldn't
Several
have to
years ago, yes.
be encumbered with this, but interesting about this is they had to move it a week, because don't they clash with the
Lose, bruise, and
Blue
brats.
Brews and Brats within a few hundred feet of where they're at. So that was nice of them to reconsider that. Okay, we can move on to number 6, review information regarding Historic Commission Heritage Days application, another informational item. That is this coming weekend.
Yes. And the reason this is on there, but not an action item, is I wanted to make sure that it got out to the public for information so that everyone in town had an opportunity to know about Heritage Days this weekend, or Heritage Day, and give the opportunity, if there was someone from the Historic Society here, to talk about it.
And so let him speak.
Do we have to put that in here?
State your name and address, and
Larry Ledbetter, 11343 Clovis Point.
also you are
I am the commission president
very good, thank you.
of the Historical Commission.
Right, yes.
Yes, Heritage Day is going to be like a little town country fair in a way. Mostly, the objective is to draw people to the museum. All of the facilities will be open for tours. We're having a large flea market sale to generate funds for our programs in the future. And there'll be a pig roast that will start being cooked on Friday night by the Wounded Soldiers Program, or
Injured soldier?
Injured Soldier Program, yes. Got that wrong. Yeah, there's different organizations. And they will prepare that, and it'll be a $5 meal, which should be quite a treat. I think a highlight will be the fellowship tent, which will allow people to come to town and meet up with their friends and just sit around and listen to the barbershop quartet and possibly make some new friends. So it's like I would compare it to like a little country fair.
Are they doing pioneer games and so forth?
No, we're reserving that for our
Depot Day.
Depot Day, yeah. This is, like Jan Renwick had pointed out, this is more of a, not so much directed at the children as a program, the way Depot Day is. Depot Day is aimed at children,
Sure.
pretty much to encourage them to come out and enjoy the museum and learn about the history of South Lyon. But this is more of a, just a all-community type, relaxing, quiet day. It's 8 hours of no real structure. And of course, because this is our first annual, hopefully of many years to come, there'll be things that'll be learned and improved on, and we'll plan for the next year.
And then you're having, that's on the Saturday, the 18th then? Starts
Yes,
at
sir.
What time?
9 a.m. till 5 p.m. Hopefully, the weather will be good and cooperative, and of course, people will be wandering around the grounds and enjoying the park and the museum.
All right, so we got that information out.
Thank you.
Okay, number 7, review city manager's goals and objectives for the year of 2015 to 2016.
As was mentioned by Councilwoman Kapowski, the council wanted to see my goals and objectives for the upcoming fiscal year. I had provided you with a memo in January, but I've also expanded upon that and brought forward specific goals. The first one is to complete major IT projects, which includes the new software and necessary hardware implementation for BSNA. That is, the objective behind that is to reduce customer service interaction time by having information available to customers through a greater number of resources, not only in City Hall, but by being able to provide information to consumers online and allow for property tax and utility bill payments available online. To improve our customer service experience, part of that is working to change perceptions that the in-person experience in City Hall is slow and inefficient. That is part of the IT experience, lack of accepting credit cards, only accepting checks and cash. To improve our forms at City Hall, as well as to provide more web access to those forms to reduce the amount of time necessary for residents to complete the process. This also applies to our building department, as right now the only way they can access a lot of those processes is to come in person to City Hall. We'd like to automate some of those processes and make those available online. To seek permission to apply for at least one grant per quarter, doing that by working with the Parks and Rec Commission. Although the meeting last week was canceled, I'm waiting for their next meeting to talk to them about the grant for volunteer park that we had already spoke about, to work with the Water and Wastewater Department to seek grant funding for the EPA required asset management plan, as we have that necessary for our next wastewater treatment permit. To work with the DDA on the building department and code official on the blight elimination grant that we just talked about this evening. To work with the city clerk and the deputy clerk to apply for election assistant commission discretionary grants to repave and remark the city hall parking lot, as there are funds available for that. Are all grants that I have already identified to go after in the next year and work with specific departments. If there's any other particular areas that the council would like us to seek grant funding for. I've also talked to the Parks and Rec Commission and been approached about seeking additional funding for additional ADA accessible playground equipment. I've begun doing research on that, but have not found any available grants at this time, but that doesn't mean I will quit looking for that. To work on rebranding the city of South Lyon. This is one of the things Mayor Wallace has talked about, is coming up with a new logo for the city and a new flag that also includes revising the city's website, bringing it up to current standards. The idea is to work with a local graphic artist to develop a new logo for the city of South Lyon that can be incrementally rolled out across the city, including on business cards as they are reordered, the development of the new flag, the redesign of the city website. It'll allow us to capitalize on the positive press we've received as one of the fastest-growing areas in the state and provide visitors with an opportunity to see that we have maintained our heritage while embracing growth of the community. To successfully apply for and receive the Safe Routes to School grant in conjunction with the South Lyon Community Schools, Lyon Township, and the Road Commission. I didn't put that in with my other grants because I consider that to be too far down the line for that to be something that we're just proposing to do. The objective of that goal is to increase pedestrian safety for all students and residents through the Safe Routes to School program, community involvements, and other funding programs specifically for the Pontiac Trail and 9 Mile corridor, including the sidewalk improvements along 9 Mile, Pontiac Trail, the Sayre Elementary neighborhood, and along Princeton Street. Those are the neighborhoods that are primarily targeted in this grant. To successfully complete the implementation and formal state adoption process of the roadway asset management plan, including the development of a 5- and 10-year long-range goal to improve or maintain the city-controlled streets, to maintain a minimum PACER rating of 5. The objective behind that is to identify the necessary and reasonable goal of the council to meet the 5- and 10-year long-range plan, develop an education and marketing plan to educate the public on the need for a dedicated road millage with specific ballot language for an April 2016 election. My next goal is to bring to the council a plan to resolve the MERS unfunded liability and new hire liability issues to bring long-term pension costs into alignment with the reasonable investment strategies for the future. The objective there is to identify the best solution for new hires and existing employees without the need to significantly impact the city's existing fund balances and to resolve the pension issue. And the last goal is to develop a sidewalk replacement and construction cost share program to increase the pedestrian-friendly reputation of the city of South Lyon. I want to work with the Department of Public Works Department to identify quadrants of the city to rotate a program through annually, develop a reasonable cost for new construction and for reconstruction of ADA-compliant sidewalk through both residential and commercial areas, and then propose to council a cost share program of 50/50 with grants from the city capped at a specific amount, develop separate application process for property owners in residential and commercial zoning, develop and propose expected annual expenditures for the process and get it approved in the 2016-2017 budget year, develop an RFQ for commercial contractors to complete the project work, and no work would happen in any area of the city until the city obtains the property owner's down payment for their share of the project.
Give you a moment to breathe.
I have a couple of questions.
I did talk to Laney Young regarding the Safe Routes to School grants. I pointed out, I hope that they were looking to put some sidewalks in on the other side of the street. And he's, well, we think we have some funding for that. But again, talk is cheap, and I expect to see Lyon Township step forward so that these children who do walk into our city have sidewalks to walk in. And right now, they're walking down the middle of Marjorie Ann and different streets in that area that's township, and there's no way that's safe. And so hopefully they are pursuing that. You might have to get a
But-
reminder out to them to.
Both the township and the city need to pass resolutions. Ours will be on the next agenda in support of this grant application. I don't know when Lyon Township's resolution will be on, but our grant submittal is due in August. So Lyon Township has to do it either at their meeting this month or early August, supporting and recognizing that they will commit funding for the grant. So we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Glenn, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Actually, to further on that, does the grant provide any ability for land acquisition? Because Marjorie Ann, they don't have enough right-of-way to put a sidewalk on there, so.
No, that's township's
That
problem.
will be a question for It does provide funding for land acquisition, but that is a challenge for Lyon Township because those areas along Marjorie Ann are in the township.
But I don't think anybody here has got any misgivings with them availing themselves of this grant if we're not contributing to their chunk of,
No, we would not be
you know,
contributing to,
yeah,
it would be
improvement.
a.
That's not
it
an
would be a
issue, so
cost
they just have to
share.
do
They
their
would have to-
sidewalks.
They would have to, Lyon Township would have to cost share for their portion of the sidewalk in Lyon Township. We would only be cost sharing for the portion of the sidewalk that falls within the city limits.
My point simply being is if land acquisition is part of the grant, that'll help them get there, that's all.
Yeah.
The, okay, you went through a number of these grants that you're hoping to employ quarterly. Do you have some feel for what the match money in those grants are?
Average grant applications require a minimum of 20 to 25%.
If we could get away with minimum, that would be terrific, but, I mean, grants have been substantially higher than that for match typically in the last 15 years, so.
Well, it depends on whether you're going for public grants or private grants. Your private foundation grants, which some of your, like the one we're doing for Volunteer Park, which allows you to use crowdfunding, allows for a lower match because you're doing crowdfunding using public or private funds, as well as some of the grants that I'm seeking for ADA compliant playground equipment would be going through private foundations as well, allow for lower grant matches. It is your public grants where you're going for state or federal funding that tend to go for higher 25, 30, or 40%.
I thought that crowdfunding one was part of a state.
There is
Program.
a partition of it which ties in with the MEDC
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
tied with the state, yes.
Okay, and finally, the discussion that, of you're investigating the answer for MERS, I would like us to be engaged in that, the entire rollout. I don't want to end up waiting until you formulate a plan and then we say, no, you know, so I hope that that's, yeah, that's going to be important. Thank you.
Aaron?
The first one with the IT projects, is there a reason you feel you won't complete this?
No.
Oh, okay, so it's just an easy goal.
Well, it was a goal that was already in
I just-
works in
it
January.
I just
was
wanted to know if there was more to it, that's all. The improving the customer service experience. I read it differently than you had described it. But when we had your review, the majority of this council had made a comment about morale in the office
Yes.
being bad. I'm surprised that wasn't part of your goal.
I didn't put it specifically as part of the goal, but I will tell you, and it's in my weekly report, we started having meetings with staff last week to discuss some of the morale issues and have already begun working on some of them.
Okay, I don't get the weekly reports because my email's not working. And I've asked for help on that, and I haven't received it. Okay, the branding of the city of South Lyon, what about some development of the buildings that are not being used? Is that any goal?
That was why I was looking at hiring a full-time economic development to do community and economic development. If you would like me to add economic development goals to this, I can do that, but that's part of rebranding it, yes, making the city more attractive.
Okay, we didn't approve you for a full-time economic
No, you didn't.
developer. Okay,
No.
so are you going to work in that direction?
I can, yes.
Okay. And how much is the city actually involved in this safe routes to school? I thought the schools took the lead on that, and that the cities are going to be very little. What is the hierarchy in that involvement?
The city will actually be the lead applicant because it has to be an Act 51 agency that applies. That means only the road commission or the city are eligible to apply for the Safe Routes grant. and the road commission has chosen not to be the applicant, so the city is the lead applicant. We will be applying and therefore administering the grant.
Okay. I just wanted to know where that lied. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Ted, I have a few.
Joe?
Apologize, I was making a note. There was just three quick ones that I wanted to add that I would like to see. I'm speaking to a lot of business owners, and one of the things that they are saying is that they have not met you yet. And there was one comment that stuck out to me that was actually, I thought was a great suggestion. I thought this would be a perfect setting to bring it up. If you were to take, let's say, one Friday, every Friday, or whatever it is, every other week or once a week, and say Friday, okay, I'm going to visit 2 or 3 new businesses this Friday, and then just go up to them and say, introduce yourself and say, hey, this is who I am, I'm here to help, is there anything I can do to help? Just letting them know, making a presence of yourself. I think that would be something good to do. And maybe even taking it a step further and tracking how many businesses you've seen, how many businesses you want to see, and kind of put some sort of a tracking system and that system in place.
I think that's a very good idea. I will take that under advisement, and I will start putting that information also in the weekly report.
Thank you. Then also, one of the things we talked about in the recent past was the reliance on the city attorney, mostly just to contain costs.
Okay.
So I'd like to see an improvement in the weekly and the monthly hours going down. So I think that's a huge goal for me and should be for you. And then also, finally, just working with other government organizations. I know you do that, but I'd like to see it extended even more. And for example, you're working with the Safe Routes, and this is great, but as we've been talking about the sidewalks and other issues, kind of getting them on board to make sure all the loops are closed. So that's it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, and that was informational.
Okay.
Now, we're going to move on to number 8, new on the agenda. And this was placed on us by the county more than anything. They gave us a week to make a decision, and we happen to be meeting today. And I guess I'd have to ask a question on that before. Why, if they knew April 1st, why did they not let us know sooner? Any idea?
I don't know if they knew April 1st. I know the letter, which is included in your agenda note, that was emailed out this morning, I received at 4:45 on Friday and
Yeah.
began researching it with the help of the city attorney
Yeah,
over the
I understand
weekend.
that part of it, but it was just...
It was dated July 8th.
Is it the same old thing? Oh, that's South Lyon over there in the far corner again? Remember those guys?
I can't answer for the county.
Yeah, I know. We've had this experience for many years. Okay, so go ahead and bring up what we're going to discuss here.
All right, what this is the property at the corner of McHattie and Lafayette on the northwest corner, 390 Lafayette, was foreclosed on by the Oakland County Circuit Court on February 18th for property taxes. The total foreclosed amount is $58,475.07. The city, as an organization, has the first right of refusal to purchase this property for public purpose. That public purpose could be to turn it into a park. That purpose could be to offer it for redevelopment. In the future, that purpose could be to get rid of blighted structures that are on the property. Knowing that we have a building there that is blighted, that we have been working with our building department and our code enforcement officer on dealing with not only the blight, but code issues and the fact that it should be condemned, I immediately forwarded this information to the city attorney to see what was the process that we would need to go forward with. in order to have the city consider this. We have a deadline of responding to the county by July 21st in writing with our authorization and our intent to purchase for a minimum bid and a not more than bid for the property. And if we do not respond, it is considered a waiver of our right to refuse. Okay, this building is not currently in what we consider the central business district, but it does fall within the downtown development authority district. I know Councilman Kivel had spoke to me today with several questions. I had forwarded that email on to the rest of you, which you have in front of you, asking if it was in the central business district. It isn't currently, but Carmen said that it's not at the present, but it will be under the proposed zoning ordinance. Does it require off-street parking? Yes, it does currently, but that too would change under the zoning ordinance amendments. What size building envelope can fit on the parcel? That is something that Carmen says would be not, he says, his words are, it would be fruitless to worry about off-street parking since we're going to include it in the central business district project. It is also a question that was very difficult for us to answer because last Thursday, the county came and took all of our paper assessing files, so we didn't have access to those, and the county did not return our phone call today to give us.
The letter came on Friday. Boy,
The
this
letter
is
came on
all
Friday.
wonderful.
Thursday, they took all of our assessing files, and we didn't have access to know that anything other than the legal description, so we don't know the exact dimensions of the parcel, because that's not in the tax system. The other question was, if the building is demolished or renovated, refurbished, what uses could go at this location? Carmen's answer was, we would be looking for a multi-story building with retail on the first floor and office or residential on upper floors in all likelihood, trying to make it more of a traditional downtown building. But again, that would be consistent only if he could get adjacent parcels, and I know that the property owner for the adjacent parcel is here and probably would not be willing to sell, is actually probably more interested in purchasing. Tim probably has some responses to some questions. Dennis can answer any questions you have about the actual blighted condition of the structure, and I am still,
I'm not worried about.
I have not
Carmen.
heard from Carmen that he is out of his other meeting, so it does not look like he's going to be here for the discussion. Yeah, Carmen's on board, but he's not going to make it here for the discussion.
Mike, you got?
Yeah, I have two questions. First of all, I'm all behind this. But as far as the resolution is concerned, do we have to be specific as to what we plan to do with the building? Because I know in the resolution it says demolish. I just don't know if we want to be, what happens if we do purchase property and we get an attractive offer from somebody before we demolish the building? Would we then be limited to what we could do as far as selling the building to a prospective buyer if we have the word demolish in the resolution?
Well, I think that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that, but the demolition reference is in the whereas clause, whereas the actual resolution authorizes it for the public purposes of promoting the productive use of the property, expediting its return to the tax roll, fostering economic development, and preserving property values. So I think that's just an introductory, I think your desire is to have the building demolished. So I don't think that this resolution would commit you to that, given the way it's currently drafted.
Yeah, I just don't, I want to make sure it doesn't commit us to doing one thing before if we get an offer on it from somebody else. And do we know if there's any restrictions for building on that site? I know we had that discussion with the former gas station, the parking lot, where we can't put residential on that property because of the concerns we have with the underground.
You're talking about the city parking lot?
Yes. Do we know if there's any?
You could do residential there on a second level, and that was one of the things that we were dealing with through that restrictive covenant. So I'm not aware of anything, but I have not looked to determine whether there's any similar type of restriction on this parcel.
Okay.
It would be my belief that because it was not a building used for any type of hazardous use, that there would be any type of restrictive covenants.
Well, I
on
was
that
just
parcel.
concerned about the underground. I know there was some underground contamination that BP is still monitoring the spread.
Yeah, that was a gas station
Well,
site.
I just want to make sure that, I know.
I don't think the city is aware of anything at that location currently.
Okay.
Isn't our current zoning setbacks going to make it almost impossible to build anything on there if it is demolished?
No, because the intent, well, our current zoning, yes, but with the zoning amendments that Carmen is in the process of redeveloping, which is part of the new master plan, that is included in the central business district, which means all you have to do is have sidewalk and off-street, or on-street parking available within so many feet.
I got a couple of questions. First off, I want to say Carmen doesn't get to vote on any of this stuff. So for him to be pretty much laying out full cloth of what's going to go on there is pretty presumptuous. Okay, so you've got a whole the central business district idea, I mean, certainly isn't foreign to any of us, but I had asked for this information on what the envelope could be over a year ago, and we still haven't gotten anything put together. The notion that this thing needs to be demolished kind of takes away some potential opportunities that might end up being available there. So the idea of reconstructing the failing parts of this structure are certainly not anything extraordinary. So as soon as we demolish this and end up, if the whole CBD thing were to transform into that location, that immediately puts the city on the hook to start providing parking spaces. Because do any of you know some private guy that has land down there that would be willing to turn it into a parking space or a parking lot for activities going on downtown? I sure as heck don't. So that means it's going to be left in our lap to try to provide parking for this expanded CBD. We've also got, that whole block is rife with people that have complied to the existing zoning class. They've got their own on-site parking from the dentist office to the bike shop to the car sales place and
Well,
across the street.
Third
So-
Monk is using they qualify by using our city lot where the rock is.
Well, plus, they've also suggested that they can end up going, Carol was talking about developing behind it too. So, I mean, they have the potential to be able to have some parking if push came to
His
shove.
idea of developing, spread some gravel around, that's a parking lot.
The
That's not-
point being that there's an awful lot of speculation in, first off, I want to say, as Mike said, I'm on board with this, but my rationale is more of the protective nature to prevent others from getting control over this property that might not end up working in the best interest of the city. So this would allow us to come up with the plan that makes the most sense to reutilize and retest that property. So I'm absolutely on board with this, and I do want to ask, is this just a general fund expenditure?
No, this would come out of the land acquisition fund, and we do have a balance of $180,414.24 in that.
That works out very well, okay. All right, so, but I really want to bang on that point, that this isn't one guy's version of what's going to take place down there. Gene Carroll he already owns quite a bit of the property down there. He may end up being a guy that would be looking to some more comprehensive plan to be engaged in that. But there's an awful lot of questions and discussions that need to take place before we end up making any kind of rash decision on ultimately what the outcome of that is going to be.
Can I respond to that? I agree with you that it not necessarily needs to be demolished. What I would like to see done is what other communities have done with buildings in their downtown area that are no longer used, that the city gets control of, and put it out for proposal for different developers or interested parties to see what they propose to have done at that site, whether they choose to demolish the structure or whether they want to renovate and refurbish the structure. That way, the city gets the best and gets to choose the best project for the location while they have control of it.
Okay, as long as, yeah, I mean, that throws a new wrinkle in the whole thing, though, because unless we set up parameters that say, as the zoning exists, then we're kind of force-fed into retailoring our zoning to go to the CBD model, which, as I said, all these other businesses have obligated themselves to providing all the things, all those assets that go with that zoning class. So suddenly we're going to say thanks, but, you know, we're going to allow people to invest substantially less into what their obligation to build in this location would be.
Well, again, any project that would be done, the council would have to make the decision on whether they wanted to allow for changing the zoning or changing the way that the parking is allowed, or whether it is required to be done with the current zoning and the current district that it is in.
The other consideration is that, okay, a change of zoning will often be accompanied by some unintended consequences. All those same businesses that have parking may suddenly see an opportunity to build something that might end up, you know, let the city provide parking, and I'm going to make some revenue off of renting space where I used to have parking. So, I mean, it's a really big discussion.
It is.
And as I said, I mean, I think we need to capture this now while the opportunity exists, but we still have a lot of talking to do before this is finalized. Thank you.
Dennis, how bad is the foundation on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst?
I'd go with a 9. It's pretty bad. You've got some significant foundation failure there, and between the infestation of animals and the mold, the flooding, all that kind of stuff, it's going to be a challenge for anybody to try and work with what's there. Not that it can't be done, it's all about money, right?
Right.
But it would be a challenge for anyone.
I know the owner is very concerned with that foundation. He's concerned with his foundation being affected by it.
I know, but his foundation is in the same
the next door
projected
neighbor.
bad soils. So if they poured piers, this building could end up being, you know, pull that bad soil out, put piers in, and rebuild the section of the wall that's unstable.
Build it from the inside out?
Yeah, exactly. So
You're right, though, it's all about money. I just wanted to know how bad it was.
a refurb isn't going to be cheaper than, isn't going to be more expensive than a whole new build.
Mike has a
No, I
question.
just want to make sure you're done.
Oh,
Aaron?
I'm done, thank you,
Okay.
Dennis.
Do we have any idea if we have to go the demolition route, what we're looking at as far as costs?
We don't. We have not had an opportunity, because of the short time frame, to get quotes on what demolition would cost.
And you have to also look at what's in it.
Yeah, I was going to
You know,
say,
if you've
what,
got any
exactly.
asbestos, if you do have mold, that's, you know, you gotta call a remediator in, you're gonna be spending a lot more money.
Right.
Lead.
That is something we would have gotten quotes on if we'd had more
Oh,
time.
yeah, no, I understand. So basically, what we're being asked to decide tonight, if we want to purchase it from the tax, or in the foreclosure sale, and to do that, we would have to approve the attached resolution, but can we modify that? Do we have to use the word demolish? I know what you're saying, I don't want to be,
When I was putting this together, I didn't want to hide the ball that was what I think the city's true intent is to take that building down. That's the only reason it's in there.
okay, as long as you're telling me that we're not locked into demolishing the building.
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
I think it's postured as the city desires to acquire the property and demolish the existing building.
Okay.
Desires. I don't think the resolution part binds you to demolishing it.
Why don't we just take that out?
You can take that out.
You want to move that resolution with that out?
to where it would say where the city desires to acquire the property.
Can we just take out and demolish the existing building located on that property and just start up again with which is in disrepair? Does that make any sense, or you want to just take the whole paragraph out?
Can you repeat?
Just say to be, for future determination of use,
But
you know, rather than the demolition, acquire the building
Repurpose.
with a future determination for use.
I would strike and demolish the existing building located on the property which is in disrepair. That's all I would delete.
okay, that's fine.
Acquire the property as preparation for private development, which will promote
That's fine.
productive use.
Then I'll make the motion that we approve the resolution as amended, authorizing the purchase of tax foreclosed property located at 390 South Lafayette in the city of South Lyon.
I'll support.
Further discussion? You
Mr.
know, in
Mayor?
favor, say aye.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I could, I just want to make sure that council is aware that the provision where if you acquire the property through this process, you really can't make the quote-unquote profit above your acquisition and demolition and other costs that are allowed under the statute. You have to return that. There may be ways to, I don't know, redirect that, but I didn't have time to look at any of that, and I've not had experience with that issue.
Now, what do you
so.
mean by return it?
So it would go into the county's delinquent tax fund as listed in the statute. It goes, so if you acquire it for 58 and you spend 50 on demolition and you sell it for more than that 108, that balance has to be returned to the county. And they book it in a different account for their tax delinquencies. So I just want to make sure that you're clear on that.
So we're not going into this with profit.
Right. You're not going to you're not going to become real estate developers.
Well, if it becomes an
Seems funny,
eyesore
why-
that's not in the city anymore, we
Why are
do
the,
profit.
are the county available to capitalize on it, but the city that?
I presume, well, just my thought was, it's probably offsetting additional losses that from properties and other taxes that weren't recovered through delinquency.
Well, they did reimburse us the 17K for, when we fixed it up, so I guess,
Well, that will,
That's how that
if
works,
if this property were not to sell, they would ask you for that money back, just
Right.
so we're clear on that too.
right?
Go ahead.
The way the DTRF works is the county, through that revolving fund, makes the community whole on all its taxes that are owed. And that way they have the money to run their government for the year. And then as the taxes are collected then by the county or sold or whatever, that money then replenishes the DTRF. And so it's a revolving fund. I mean, that's the very, very basic of it, but there's millions of dollars in that fund, but it's just to keep governments whole for their taxes so they don't have to scrimp and save, waiting for their money to come in.
Well, it's also, I mean, that being part of the calculus, it behooves us to free ourselves of the thing as quickly as we can then. I mean, come up with a good plan and then implement it and then get out of that.
Get it on the tax roll.
Yeah, exactly.
And if a viable business goes in there, it benefits our city.
Okay, we had this,
Did
we're
somebody
ready to
second?
vote, we're in discussion now, okay.
Kibble second.
Yeah.
All right. All in favor of following through on this purchase, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? For that blighted corner, there's hope, folks. All right, move on to manager's report.
Don't have a lot this evening. We have the concert in the park again this weekend. I believe you said it was a 50s and 60s band
Rich Eddie?
this coming weekend. And then we have the movie in the park on Saturday night, the Lego movie this coming weekend. Hope to see all the families out and about this weekend, so great opportunities for people. Beyond that, I'm in the office all of this week, have Chamber of Commerce breakfast on this coming Friday for those that are interested. That is at Rockford Chimney Supply. It's their ribbon cutting, actually, at 228 South Mill Street. That's a great opportunity for some networking. It's at 4 o'clock on Friday, for anybody that's interested in attending that ribbon cutting. The chamber is also having their weekly meeting. If there's anything the council would like me to bring before the Chamber of Commerce, we're getting ready for the Blues, Brews, and Brats on the 1st. And I will be attending the Michigan Local Government Managers Conference for 2 days next week, but back in the office the rest of the week. It's just Wednesday and Thursday, so I'll only be out of the office a couple of days, but I'll always available via email and cell phone.
Okay, Bev?
I have a couple of things.
Uh-huh.
I would like to bring up to the council for discussion, possibly at the end of August, the issue of Colonial Acres Phase 4 dedication of their water mains and fire hydrants. I have been consulting with Bob Martin, who was kind enough to help me, and we are putting together the information we both have so we can present it to you. Bob has been on vacation, but we will be meeting again soon, so I just wanted to give you a heads up. Also, since I announced my intention to run for city council, several issues have arisen that need my attention and some decisions on, and I need to consider all these and decide what's best for me. So I am withdrawing my name, and I want to thank all the people that signed my petition and gave me their support. Thank you.
Mike? Got that.
Yeah, boy. Jeez. At our last meeting during the community center presentation, I forgot to mention and thank Amy Allen, who is the director of the South Lyon Area Rec Authority, and Linda Graham, who is the director of the Center for Active Adults. Both Amy and Linda have played a very active role in our committee, and my apologies for not thanking you both at the last council meeting. That's it.
Okay, Harvey?
I'm good, thank you.
Joe?
Yeah, I was excited to see this, the first annual Heritage Day. I think sounds like a lot of fun for just families and everybody, South Lyon residents. So I look forward to seeing everybody there. Also, just want to touch upon two quick things. I was with my son, we were going for a bike ride, and we stopped in front of Paul Baker Park. And for anybody who hasn't been there, please stop by, it looks beautiful. All new plants and weeds pulled, so a big thank you to the Four Seasons Garden Club for pulling the weeds and beautifying that park. Speaking of Paul Baker Park, there's actually an event on August 11th for the DIA where they're going to have a string quartet and just a nice kind of event highlighting the Inside Out program, which is coming to South Lyon. So I was pleased to see that coming. And then just one other thing, I mentioned the Four Seasons Garden Club, and I just wanted to highlight that these organizations such as the Four Seasons Garden Club, the Junior League, partnering with the city, it's really refreshing to see these organizations partnering with the city, and I think that's something that going forward we need to promote and continue doing. So with that, thank you.
Okay. Aaron?
I'm good tonight, thank you.
All righty. Glenn?
I just wanted to give notice to everybody, a 35-year-old, or 35-year electrical inspector for the city, 85-year-old Norb Hope passed away last Wednesday. And just wanted to say he was quite an asset for our community. He was a nice, stable guy, always willing to give you assistance in trying to figure out if you weren't a master electrician, he would try to help walk you through getting a light switch fixed up and stuff. So, yeah, he'll be missed. I was grateful that he was healthy for the last Christmas party. So, but
Yeah, and
So
he's worked till recent times.
yeah,
Okay, is that it?
yeah.
I attended the Injured Soldiers event Saturday. Holy mackerel, if you like motorcycles. Phew. They had 340 of them there, and you ought to hear them when they all go at the same time. It was quite an event to see them going down the road, and in support of injured soldiers, Operation Injured Soldiers, which again is not wounded soldiers. This is, this particular group is headquartered right here in South Lyon, and they specialize in making sure that these guys and gals have an opportunity to go fishing or hunting or have some fun, and they come up with the machinery, if it's so needed, to get them out into the woods. And last year, I think I noted that one of them got a 8-point buck by blowing in a tube on a gun. And that's all his ability was to do it by tube, but he did it. And it's a great organization. You might want to look into them. They're headquartered out at Colonial Industrial Park now, off of 10 Mile. But if you have any questions on it, of course, you can go to Parkside Cleaners, and that's their original headquarters, and they gladly help out any questions regarding. Or if you want to make a donation, they're always looking for donations. They recently just acquired a 200-acre, ranch, I guess, up north that was given to them, and they were so proud and happy to get that. So they got places to go now. They go to Florida for the fishing. They go up in the UP, and they take these people, and it's great moments for these people that thought they'd never get to do anything again when they lost their limbs or what have you. Also, that last car show we had here on that last Wednesday of the month, we had on the last Wednesday of the month downtown, was bordered on spectacular. The Presbyterian Church just stepped right up and said, because they had so many come in, they had no place to put them. They let 35 of them park on their side lawn over there, and of course we had them in the downtown area too because they just wouldn't fit in there. And it all worked out. It was really great to see, and the people were just buzzing about it. They just really enjoyed it. Helps when you have good weather too, but they were just really excited by it. And as Bob mentioned, Rich Eddy's band's going to be here at the concert. That starts at 7.
Yes, it does.
And you'll hand out packets for mosquitoes and stuff if people so desire.
I'm outlawing mosquitoes that evening.
In fact, one of those little packets will work on 4 or 5 people. You don't
Yes,
need to have one for
absolutely.
everybody. You just get one among the family and it'll work. I want to thank Maggie Kurtzwell. I saw her last week actually trimming out in the park, Paul Baker Park, and trimming some trees and stuff and getting them in order and doing some weed pulling. On her hands and knees out there working. I'm not sure is she part of that Four Gardens or Four Seasons? I'm not sure she is, but she's always worked hard in that park. I know that. And you already noted that August 11th, the DIA is having their presentations. They're going to be at the painting thing there. I don't know how they box it in or how it's set up, but that's going to be on display there too. And
I thought it was sort of a surprise presentation, like they don't tell you how everything is going to go.
it's going to be on the evening of August 11th. That's a Tuesday, I believe. Okay, all right. And that's at Paul Baker Park. And with that, I'd like to call for an adjournment.
I move we adjourn. I'll support.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Have it, Glenn.
Aye, opposed? That ends this meeting of approximately 1 hour and 14 minutes.